and a warm welcome to you all, ladies and gentlemen, to this year's Stakeholder Forum as part of our Mobile Month activities and commemoration. Today's Stakeholder Forum is on the theme, the impact of the central bank's digital currency on future digital payments. As we go along the line, of course, we'll add current digital platforms as well. I am Emefa Apau, and I work with Joy FM, Joy News, and I am more than happy to go everywhere with you today, from now till we are done. Don't forget to enjoy twice the talk time every time, but of course, it has to happen after the event. But as we do so, I know most of you have your mobile phones, so you can tell everyone that they can enjoy talk time every time as we're here. I know most of us know about or have heard about the central bank's digital currency. Maybe a quick show by hand if you have. How many of us have heard about it? Okay, quite a number, but I see that at the back, most of us don't know. How about MoMo? Have you heard about MoMo? You've heard about MoMo? Okay. How about ECD? The number has gone down again, so it looks like MoMo is carrying the day. How many of you have MoMo app? I'm not talking about MTN app. I'm talking about MoMo app. See, the numbers are going down. Most of you have the MTN app, but you don't have the MoMo app. So as we go along the line also, you will get to know more. But if you have Play Store, App Store, or whatever store you have, it's a good time to start looking for MTN MoMo. Then, as we go, I'll tell you the goodies that comes with it. So we are live on City 97.3 FM and its affiliates across the country. You don't have a radio. All you have to do is to log on to Facebook, YouTube, MTN Ghana. We are live. And as we go on also, let me quickly remind you, I know that most of you could not meet the deadline. For your sake, it was reluctantly extended. You have not registered your SIM. There is a table at the front desk specially for you. If you are not sure whether your SIM has been registered, it's *400#. Just check and let me know. I'll give you permission, then you go out and then do so. But guess what? It's raining bonuses on MTN MoMo with 100% bonus offers. So now you can get 100% bonus when you buy airtime for yourself on *170# or *170*311#. Or when you just schedule your airtime. Most of you don't know about scheduling. I learned it today as well. So see me in chambers, I'll show you. But in the meantime, it's *170# or *170*311#. Don't let this offer pass you by. Get twice the airtime when you buy airtime for yourself, only on MTN MoMo. At this point, many of us know why we're here, but some of you just tagged along because your boss or your friend asked you to come for this Stakeholder Forum. It's a good time to welcome the person that can tell us exactly why we're here and give us an appropriate welcome. Your welcome will determine the kind of welcome she gives you. So with a round of applause, let's welcome the Senior Manager, Corporate Communications, MTN, Mrs. Georgina Asari Fiagbenu. Please do it better.
Thank you, MFA. CEO, heads of financial institutions and partner companies, our media partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's with much pleasure that I welcome all of you on behalf of the MTN Mobile Money and the management and staff of this great company lead the conversations. So this morning, we are here to have another conversation on the impact of the central bank digital currency on future monetary policy and digital payments. That's a very long one and very loaded. And so I'm sure you are all as expectant as I am to know what this topic is all about. And of course, we are privileged to have distinguished personalities who are experts in this area to share with us on the theme. So it's my pleasure to welcome all of you and also to give a special welcome to our speakers, Elihene, who is the CEO of Mobile Money Limited, who I call the Papa of the Momo. That's my name for him. And Mr. Romeo Buje, I hope I got the name right, CEO of IT Consortium, and Dr. Kwame Opon, Head of Fintech and Innovation for the Bank of Ghana. These men are gurus in their areas, and I'm sure we'll all have a wonderful discussion today. And so with that, I would like to welcome you again, and also welcome a very special woman who is going to give us another traditional welcome. So it's my pleasure to introduce Ajovi Sika to continue with the welcome. Shall we give her a round of applause as she comes?
Chichiawe Tekbladu Chichiawe lo Chichiawe Chichiawe gledariba Amanata watagaka Matang watakbladu Oh kekrebetu pakpa dosu kanko kajoko mebenu pato matro magbo Madwa go nemi Ago nanogama so I can make my way into your heads and your minds with these words of mine. A few days back, as I sat in front of my mad hat drinking my morning cocoa and kose, not that English you had this morning, my mind anti-clocked to that black hole where our lives were altered by a small yet mighty virus. A new wave was reported. And just when our faith was being restored, here we go again. The never-ending cycle of doubts and fears. When will this ever end, we thought? When will we go out again? How will we live? How we will survive? I believe you recall how businesses came to a near standstill. How great institutions were not spared. How corporations seated here today were also locked down. But you see, it was on that common ground that our physical world smoked the peace pipe with the virtual one, with mobile money and digital money transfer at the center of it. Well, I would say it has been with us since its launch 13 years ago by the biggest network in Ghana. But little did we know that it will become as important as the air we breathe, woven into the very fabric of our society. Lai momo, eyo momo. Seasons come, seasons go. Life rises and bows to death, but there is another thing that remains constant, that which we will always need, that which we will always use, that which is called money. In whatever shape or form, from what our ancestors used to what we have today, cowries, bars, notes, and that which we can term invisible. So just as the phoenix rose from the ashes, MoMo wiggled itself out of the claws of this virus. My uncle for say, ya for koko, ya san koko bi, a feizi MoMo aba, yes ika guye fundu. Ye chichi on habe, amanata no atagakamata tekliwa duo, so heed my words. For we cannot ignore that the impact of MoMo is deeply rooted and well-branched for all. Then, take a look at that student who urgently need educational materials. That business owner buying stock, paying staff, that worker buying gobe with his last cocoa. And even you, sending monthly remittance to your significant other, you know what I mean. Indeed, by way of Fintech, many lives are being impacted through mobile financial services. Where? Upeding. Gakaleki o katamere. Obe ahle o chie to bobe ajatale gbeme. And so just as the great baobab must stand firm in the midst of a storm, so must MoMo. Yes, so must MoMo as well. And so I ask, what are we doing today? Jojola for the keji. Yet the tika habe hamono your chalk. So, but you see, we know that you understand that many of us are still apprehensive about the concept of digital money. Many of us are still worried about the transactional charges. Many of us are expressing fears about the misuse of our data. And lest I forget, the governmental regulations and policies. Kakatogbenye glonu bere. Ayama pola, ma fonu lani bao. Ye asibu bumo trahama plenu la sibu bumo. And so let me pat your shoulders for having in place solutions to allay our fears. Toto makwa vasa ojojo be yajo. Today is a gathering of minds that understands that collaboration is a key to the growth of this sector. And so, to all the institutions making MoMo and digital money transfers possible in Ghana, I say, Miewezo. To Elihene, Kwame Opon, Romeo Bouget, the brains who will be leading this debate, I say, Mieweva Ogawanyo. And to the many who are yet to join the MoMo train, we have arrived at your rail station. What are you waiting for? Come aboard. So together we can accelerate the growth in digital payments through our partnerships. For you know something? MTN is still everywhere we go. And we don't want you to be left out. Or do you? On that note, what are we doing today again? You don't know. Hororio.
Please give it up for her once again. The name itself is money, so give it up for her once again. Ajo Sika, thank you for that spoken word. I'm sure if you didn't hear anything at all, you heard the weasel. Well, I must acknowledge amongst our midst today, and I see Dr. Kenashibe nodding because he heard everything that he said. That's the CEO of the Telecoms Chamber in our midst. Please give it up for him. We also have the Chief Information Officer, MTN Ghana, Bernard Akwa. We have the Acting Chief Corporate Services Officer in our midst, Nana Kofi Asare. Please, let's give it up for him. We have Mr. William Tete, is the Chief Capital Projects Officer in our midst as well. We have the CEO of iZone, Cynthia Fosu, in our midst. Ajovi asked why we are here. Many of you could not answer. But we are here to assess the impact of central banks' digital currency on future digital payments. You're listening live on radio, is on City 97.3 FM together with the affiliates. We're also live on Facebook, on YouTube, and all social media platforms. Is MTN Ghana. And to start it all off, we need to hear the perspective of electronic money users, what we call EMI perspective. And the man to do us the honors, to start it off all for us, is the Chief Executive Officer for Mobile Money Limited, the MTN Ghana subsidiary responsible for mobile financial services. He is responsible for driving strategy, business development, innovation, and relevant operations of MTN's mobile money business. Well, prior to his appointment as a CEO, he was the General Manager, Mobile Money Limited, a role he held for approximately 5 years. He was instrumental in setting up mobile money services in Ghana and growing the subscriber base, transaction volumes, as well as value. He also led the MTN mobile money team to receive ISO certification in January 2016, and then the GSMA mobile money certification in November 2019. He is a chartered marketer with over 18 years experience and has also led leadership positions in Unilever Ghana Limited and Coca-Cola Bottling Company Limited. He holds a Bachelor of Science from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and a postgraduate diploma in marketing from the Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK. He's been introduced as the Papa of MoMo Ghana for MTN. With a round of applause, let's welcome Mr. Eli Hine, Chief Executive of Mobile Money Limited. Do it better if you want your MoMo to increase. Let's hear it for him. Keep doing it whilst he comes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, MFR, and a good morning to all of us. I want to especially acknowledge also the presence of the CEO of the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System, GIPS. Archie, welcome, together with his CIO, Kojo. You're all welcome to this occasion. I also want to recognize the presence of our Chief Sales and Distribution Officer, Mr. Shaibu Haruna. Shaibu, thank you for coming. I'm sure as we go along, we'll do the honors for those who have joined us. We have our partners from the banks. Our partner banks are here. Thank you very much for making time to join us. We have our technology partners who are also here. We also have our agents who have been part of this journey all this while. Welcome, and welcome to all of us. It's always a privilege to engage you and to talk about this wonderful service of ours, mobile money. and the strides we have made with this journey. For the conversation today, whoever is in charge of the slides can move to the next slide. I was trying to use the pointer here. Can we go 2 steps back, please? Yeah, I can see it here, so if we can take us back. Okay, I think it's back now, so we can go back. Okay, so thank you very much. First of all, we've all been party to the mobile money journey, and we've seen the impact that mobile money has had. We have had the opportunity to transition various forms of transactions, digital transactions, and as we move along, because of the convenience, the speed of transaction, and all the benefits that digital payment presents, there's always bound to be opportunity to look into other areas, to develop new solutions and new technology. And one of them is what we are talking about today, which is the central bank's digital currency, in the case of Ghana, which we are calling the ECD. Now, the central bank digital currency, in our case, which we are calling ECD, allows us to make digital payments and issued by central banks. It also universally acceptable. As we go along the discussions, we'll share the outcome of the pilots that we've done. Today, we have 9 countries that have deployed, most of them in the Caribbean, but in Africa, we have 1 live operation in Nigeria, and we do have pilots in Ghana, which we'll talk about, as well as in South Africa. Other places are looking at ways of developing the concept, and a lot of work is ongoing. Next slide. Now, the next slide is just talking about what I talked about, which is the Africa setting. The live operation is in Nigeria, and Ghana and South Africa are piloting. We see other countries doing research and so on. So it's a new area, and it's important that we all talk about it. Most importantly, because there are other forms of digital payment or digital currency, we'll be able to merge and see where the benefits are and see where the opportunities are and things we can do differently with this form of currency. Now, globally, CBDC, as we call it, has been driven by a number of interests. First of all, digital payments, because it enhances our digital payment offering. It also offers opportunity for inclusion. And one of the areas we'll talk about in the conversation for me is the opportunity to go offline. Because with the mobile money solutions, you need connectivity. This is giving us an opportunity to do activity offline. So where we have network issues, people can still do the last mile transaction using the offline mode. Then it also presents opportunities around clearing and settlement, because as you transact, all the activities that happens on your mobile money wallet, at the end of the day, there is settlement, because there are different institutions that are involved. And these different institutions all have interests in the transactions that are executed. And therefore, in settling for your transactions, monies then move around to the various institutions. With this conversation on CBDC, we are now talking about the currency itself in a digital form. And so it also facilitates the clearing and settlement process. Then there's also the domestic transfer. I talked about the opportunity for offline transactions as well, leveraging on this technology. And of course, as we move into the discussions, there will be opportunities to also look at cross-border transactions as well, or cross-border transfers, where regional operators are now going to tap into the opportunities that it presents. I've talked about what is happening in Nigeria already, so there are opportunities to leverage that among the regional neighbors. Now, in terms of the models for CBDC, we have seen three main models. We have the indirect, where the central bank which issues the currency serves as a wholesale point, and then there are carriers that run the interactions between retail and customers. And those can be banks or other players, fintechs and others. So they play the intermediary role. Then we have the direct, where the central bank is directly involved and manages the interactions at the retail level between themselves and customers. And those scenarios arise for various reasons. And then we have the hybrid. And the hybrid gives both the opportunity for the central bank to do either a direct interaction or uses the intermediaries to serve customers through the channel. Now, what happens in those scenarios is where the central bank feels that the intermediaries are not achieving the intended purpose or there are exposures, then they can step in and take control. So most of the time you find the hybrid being the adopted model. And I think the Ghana model runs on same. Now, we are looking at potential stakeholders in this ecosystem, including all of us who are here. We are either consumers or customers. We are either merchants. We are either commercial banks or fintechs, government, or the central bank. And we all have benefits within the CBDC. Now, when the customer is looking at the opportunity, the customer is looking at how he can leverage on this digital currency to interoperate his other financial transactions or other currency formats. So he has a bank account, and he's now has physical currency, he now has digital currency. So that interoperability helps. And then I talked about the last mile. For the customer today who is in a location where we have not been able to achieve good connectivity, that customer is still not left out. He's still also able to participate. Of course, in that participation, there are certain restrictions that goes with it just to ensure that you can manage issues around money laundering and transactions that may not be visible to you because the transactions are offline. And so that when you have offline transactions, you need to put certain controls in place because at the time of those transactions, it may not be visible to the wider community. Then for the merchants who are accepting payment, it's another instrument for receiving transactions or for receiving payment. So it's another channel that it gives them. And also reduces the cost of operation. So that's also the benefit to them. For the banks, we talked about the model where they serve as intermediary channels for distribution of ECD. And so that's an opportunity. And then the ease of movement. So if today, banks I know do a lot of collections. And so you have bullion vans that are exposed to all the risk. With ECD, it means technically those funds can be carried around in electronic formats and moved along very easily. For the fintechs and others, I'm sure Romeo will talk about the experience they had when they did a pilot, is the opportunity to set up wallets using the currency and also build other services or innovations around this new format of currency. For government, we know government does a lot of payment to persons. We know the LEAP transactions. Those are all opportunities that it presents. Then when it comes to the central bank, of course, it also, if nothing at all, does one big thing, printing of notes. Printing of notes will no longer be a big area of cost. Now, in terms of the mobile money opportunity to CBDC, we are talking about the opportunity to access digital services and therefore the opportunity for customers to use the format to interoperate with their mobile money wallet as well. Traceability of transaction is there. Settlement I talked about, and then the fact that for our agents, when it comes to liquidation of money, this is supposed to improve the speed and support the work they do, instead of sometimes the instances where they have to move around to source for cash. Those formats would allow them to do their settlements and liquidity management more efficiently. That is the expectation. But I'm sure when we start talking about the pilot and the outcome of the pilot, we'll see how those benefits are being applied or not applied. And when Clarence comes to talk about the bigger picture of what the whole conversation around CBDCs are, we would also see the other side of the thinking, which may not be today part of the scope for the pilot. Of course, in all these engagements, there are always potential risks, and therefore, as we think through the implementation of the CBDC or ECD, we also need to recognize these risks and ensure that there are mitigations to ensure that its implementation achieves its purpose. In terms of technology, there's always the need to look at the latest technology that would support its implementation and ensure that we are up to date with all the supporting infrastructure. Cyber threats and single point of failure, the need to look at our cyber resilience and also ensure that the network itself is robust and the architecture supports multi-players in its implementation. Privacy and consumer protection is also very important, ensuring that we have ways of identifying bad actors and making sure that on the national ID side, we also have strengthened all the securities within that space. Money laundering and terrorism financing is also another concern. I talked about the fact that the solution allows for offline mode. And as good as offline mode is, where you store money on a gadget or a wearable or something that you put in your pocket has money, you go to a merchant and you're able to exchange funds across. It means that we must have measures in place to ensure that that person, for instance, does not carry so much money on that unit and goes on purposes. We have controls in place that ensures that we have a hold on how much those solutions can handle at a time. Just like today, on mobile money, there's a limit on your wallet. You can't hold more than a certain amount. It's all part of the controls. And depending on the KYC you provide, your limits on the wallet is also determined. So those are all interventions that are important, that are required to ensure we deliver the best experience with the CBDC. Then, in terms of barriers, of course, we've had a lot of experience from mobile money, how we've navigated, what things we've put in place to deal with the customer barriers and uptake issues. Those will be very good lessons for us to make sure we adopt same or apply as relevant. At the same time, making sure that pilots, as what we have done, serves as a good point or a starting point to understand customer behavior, what customers expect, and what their concerns are, So out of those research and other customer-based designs, we are able to understand the customer's expectation and deliver the solution to meet their expectation. And when we have done that, I'm sure that the value and the objective for which the central bank has introduced the CBDC, which is ECD, would be met, and we all who are part of the conversation will see the value in the future of our digital payments. On that note, I want to thank you for your attention and expect the rest of the conversation to continue to expand on the discussion so we all can benefit from the session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Elihine. Let's continue to do it better for him as he takes his seat. And I know that once you were speaking, many of you have started jotting down your questions. I have mine, and we'll get to that point where you get to ask all the questions. So please, keep writing it down. And we can now hear from the regulator. We've been hearing that there have been some piloting ongoing. Most of us are hearing it for the first time, but we'll get to know more about the process so far. And our next speaker has approximately 2 decades experience in various areas of central banking, including banking, payment systems, policy and strategy infrastructure, surveillance and examination of payment systems, fraud investigations, and market participant dispute resolution, and also supervision of digitally delivered financial services. While his current role is in the area of fintech policy, risks, and supervision. He has facilitated training programs and made presentations at conferences in and outside Ghana on payment and settlement systems, electronic banking, digital finance, payment system, risks, and financial inclusion. He was Bank of Ghana's representative on the West African Monetary Zone, WAM's payment systems expert group that facilitated payment systems development in Sierra Leone, the Gambia, and Guinea. Currently, he serves as the co-chair on the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, AFI Global Standards Proportionality Working Group. He holds a Master of Finance from the University of London and a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Ghana. He's also a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants of the United Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, please, let's welcome Mr. Clarence Blay. He's an Assistant Director of the Bank of Ghana, responsible for oversight and risk assessment.
Good morning, and on behalf of the management of Bank of Ghana, we would like to express our profound appreciation with the digital financial service industry by regularly organizing this kind of engagement to discuss topical issues. And this one is not different from what they have been doing for previous years, and this is a very topical issue that we are going to talk about. And for Ellie's presentation, he has set the agenda, and we can see that the interest that he has garnered will be carried throughout this discussion to a logical conclusion. From Bank of Ghana's perspective, digitalization is critical to engendering financial inclusion across the length and breadth of this country. And this the central bank has been doing over the years. Has been doing over the years. And we have created an enabling environment for digital financial service through a number of legislations. And Ellie would remember from 2008 when the branchless banking guideline came up, it was about trying to digitize our ecosystem. And it has been a long journey up to this time when we work with the industry and noted that the regulation at that time was not encouraging traction in the industry. So we had to go back to the drawing board, and we came out with the guidelines for electronic money issuers, all in the spirit of digitalization. So many years have passed, and a lot of wonderful things have happened, and Ghana now is proudly on the international map as one of the countries that is digitizing very fast its financial service industry. Having made monumental achievements in this sector, it became necessary that the central bank move beyond creating a conducive and enabling environment and also get into the digitalization space by looking at the other gap. That is, we see a lot of digitalization taking place from the bank side through the mobile money side to the point of the user. But that chain from the bank to the central bank has been largely not digitalized. So it is on this basis that the central bank, looking at bringing efficiency to the space, decided in November 2019 at a Monetary Policy Committee meeting to embark on this wonderful journey of issuing or exploring the issuance of central bank digital currency. Now, this was given careful consideration in the sense that whatever the central bank does will have to impact upon society, and we took the stakeholders' interest into consideration. We have a country that a lot of people are using digital means of payment, and the consumers are clamoring for it. Having created the enabling environment for this thing to happen, it is important that the Bank of Ghana take a cue from it and reform itself by way of how we see currency. And the form factor needs to align with the interests of consumers. What is important is that every payment instrument that you have, being it MoMo, cards, check, you use it because it serves a particular purpose. And this is, payment strictly is a derived demand product. So if the people want digital, why not? And it's helping all of us. So the central bank needs to respond, and we have responded accordingly by exploring central bank digital currency. Now, in the future, what will be the role of a central bank? The signal is there. Banks are digitalizing at a very fast rate. Fintechs have come in. They are doing wonderful jobs. Can we continue in the way that we do things 10, 20 years ago? No. So Bank of Ghana needs to facilitate the process beyond putting in place enabling regulation. And also, the efficiency gains in payment is obvious to all of us. And this is something that we need to continue doing. Because if it is good, why stop doing it? And we need to reinvent ourselves to make sure that we reap more from efficiencies. Now, the issue of cryptocurrency, we are quite aware that there was a gap that these people are trying to fill. We also understand the philosophy that brought this thing into being, more of a libertarian philosophy. And following the 2008-2009 financial crisis, they said, aha, you see, these guys cannot be trusted. So why don't we have a decentralized monetary system, and we all come together and work to make sure that we give confidence to the system? Well, it is a good signal, but it's not a solution to the problem. So based on our regular surveillance and what is happening globally, we decided to move and explore central bank digital currency in deep. Now, globally, a lot is happening. Ghana is not alone. The BIS did a survey among 8 member countries' central banks, and they noted that about 86% of central banks globally are exploring CBDC at different stages. They are at different stages, and 60% had progressed to research. Fast tracking it, you realize that in sub-Saharan Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa, as Ellie spoke about, this was in 2021, have made significant progress, and currently Bank of Ghana is piloting a central bank digital currency. So this is not an isolated development. We are in a globalized world, and some challenges cut across. We have noted those challenges, and we don't want to be isolated. The good thing is that fintechs, technology in general, and when I use fintechs here, if you're a bank here, don't get me wrong. Fintech stands for financial technology, but it has increasingly become synonymous with the non-bank entities. So people think that when the central bank says fintech or refers to fintech, then we are talking about. But every technology, digital technology that is used to help deliver financial service is fintech. So when I use fintech, I'm using it in the generic sense. So don't get angry with me. I love all of the entities that we regulate, both banks and non-banks. Central bank digital currency, purely, is different from all the products that the entities we regulate issue out there. It is a fiat currency. It is a digital form of the fiscal currency that you know. And if we are enjoying digitalization, the central bank needs to move in tandem. And it is like your fiscal currency in the sense that it's a store of value, it's a unit of account, and it's also serves as a system for measuring things that you buy, things that you sell, things that you own. And this is very significant here. So this is completely different from what we know and what we use. It doesn't mean that it is going to supplant what is available to us. It is an enabler, an enhancer. And you will see as we progress with the presentation. Now, what a central bank is trying to do in this space is that we have realized that the entities that we have been regulating are doing a wonderful job. And there's a proverb in account that if someone is climbing a tree that bears useful fruit, it is important that you push the person up further so that you get more of the fruit. We cannot just leave the service providers, financial service providers, to continue doing what they are doing on the pretext that we have put in place enabling regulation. We also need to be actively involved in the space to deal with the inefficiencies that are currently there. Now, we have two options. A wholesale central bank digital currency that could be purely used in the interbank environment and will not be available to individuals like you and me, and it will be for the banks, or a retail-based central bank digital currency. Bank of Ghana, in furtherance of its financial inclusion agenda, thinks that let's go down. There's a certain level of efficiency at the interbank level. Let's go down there. That is where we need more efficiency. That is where we need to push the financial inclusion agenda to be able to create a more inclusive society. And that will also be in sync with the government's digitalization agenda. On this note, the central bank went for the general purpose or retail-based central bank digital currency, and also a value-based one, or a token as it's popularly called, instead of the account-based. What is the difference here? The difference here is that if we were to go for an account-based, which Ellie referred to as a direct approach, this means that the 1,001 people, just as an expression anyway, all the millions of people in this country that are eligible to hold digital currency will be direct customers of the central bank, a form of disintermediation which the central bank abhors and would not want to do anything of that sort. And that is why the conversation from the very beginning has been an inclusive one. with the interests of the stakeholders, properly catered for, so that we preserve the existing architecture in a manner that is not inimical to innovation in the space. Now, so we've talked about account-based and value-based, so let's fast-track it. So what do we intend to do in the space when we issue central bank digital currency? Positive disruption is what we're looking for. We are disrupting the space to create benefits for all the stakeholders in society, and therefore we are going to use the existing channel to make digital currency available. The main thing is always the preservation, is the preserve of the central bank. Distribution, the existing entities that facilitate the distribution of cash, as well as electronic money, will have to be in the space and do the work that they are best in doing. We're leveraging the experience and expertise of all these entities to ensure that we get it right. We will not reinvent the wheel when the wheel is already there and is doing a fantastic job. Is familiar with the road, is traveled on that road for so many years without hitches, and we continue to use that. Now, how are you able to carry along your digital currency? Because it is digital, obviously, your envelope that you take to the bank, your jacket pocket, your purse, excuse me, will be useless. But in another sense, it will be good because the different form factor that you have, if it is a card, if it's your phone or a wearable, you can keep it in your purse anyway, but you will not see your physical money there. So these are some of the receptacles for digital currency. The one thing that I want to highlight here is that based on the model that the central bank has chosen, not an account-based, but a retail token-based system, all these things are not going to be the responsibility of the central bank. We are going to work with our partners, financial service providers, who will develop the solutions and make them available on these devices for the ECD when we mainstream it to be accessible to all of us here. So no one is going to be left out of this stream. That is why we keep on referring to the positive, disruptive nature of this venture. Now, what are some of the fundamental requirements? Over the past 5-6 years, the central bank, in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance and the industry stakeholders, have worked together to come out with a number of laws. If it is not within the central bank domain and in the domain of one other stakeholder, Data Protection Authority, we have contributed. And so are most of you in this very room. And I must say that the central bank has worked with mobile money operators, other payment service providers, banks, Cybersecurity Authority, Ministry of Communication and Digitalization on most of the policies that are enabling digital financial service delivery in this country. We also are riding on the back of the work that our payment service providers and the banks have done over the years. Now a lot of people in this country are very familiar with the mobile phone. And I will not want to preempt what Romeo will come and talk about, but from the pilot, even those people who are partners from other jurisdictions were surprised how easy it was for the pilot participants to navigate through the app and perform transactions, ECD transactions. This is thanks to the good work that our stakeholders have already done to build a strong familiarity with digital financial services. Already, we have a robust infrastructure in place. GIPS has invested a lot in infrastructure that is facilitating payments around the country. And recently, they launched the Ghana Pay, another feather in their cap. And all these things have positioned this country to move a step further and do the monumental thing of ECD. With a national ID system that ensures that people are properly profiled. It's wide availability across social strata and different economic background means that it's truly inclusive and also serves as a strong basis for delivering an inclusive financial services through a digital currency. AML CFT framework is also available, and we have put in place a strong consumer protection regime. Currently, Bank of Ghana has deployed a chatbot solution on a pilot stage, in a pilot period on the Bank of Ghana website. All these things are being brought together to ensure that we provide a robust environment for digital financial service delivery in this country. And the ECD is going to serve as the fulcrum of all these developments. Now, what are the guiding principles of Bank of Ghana in this project? The first one is inclusiveness. And when we talk about inclusiveness, this is truly inclusiveness in the sense that we look at it hierarchically. From the hierarchy is from the central bank to the government. Everybody is involved. It comes to the service providers. We have banks and payment service providers, insurance companies, all of them. Their interest is catered for in the design. We have the individuals, me and you, small and medium-sized enterprises, all of them. Their interests are catered for in the design of the ECD. That is the inclusiveness approach. In addition to that, we've also considered the fact that it's not every area in this country that has strong communication, telecommunication signal. Then the off-grid challenge is there. So how do you tackle it? You need to provide a certain level of accessibility to ECD, and that is the offline solution that Ellie spoke about. Now, the positive disruption to the financial service landscape means that we try to preserve as much as possible the existing financial service architecture. It doesn't mean that we are going to preserve the inefficiencies, the things that are the pain points. No, we are doing this to eliminate the pain points. But with surgical accuracy, we are targeting things that are not good and preserving the good parts of the things that we have. And also, we're going to leverage the capabilities of the financial service providers. I spoke about it earlier on. So we are going to disrupt the environment positively. Now, user-centric design, we, as part of our design principles, needed to go around and speak to people and find out what they would prefer. And that has influenced our design ethos to the ECD project. And it's the same principle that is guiding those who have designed apps for the pilot. I have been able to review a few of them. They are fantastic, but still we continue to improve upon some of these designs to meet the needs of the users. Complementarity and interoperability. As I said, the ECD is not going to take over from any of the payment service that is being delivered now. It is aimed at enhancing what is currently available, make it better, make it accessible to a wider audience, and also enhance the interoperability of payment systems in general. Now, what are the roles of financial service providers? There are quite a number of things that has to be done. Some people will have to, on our part, you know what we normally do, all the certifications, all the standards, of course, will have to be given out to the industry. We create regulatory certainty as to what is expected of you. And we'll continuously update the standards to make sure that we deal with emerging risks. And here, interoperability, Bank of Ghana, GIPS, and all the entities that are currently providing services within the space will be roped in, and the system will communicate with them seamlessly. The financial service providers have a very big task on their hand. We want everybody to have access to a wallet. And it is the responsibility of financial service providers when the ECD is mainstream to make sure that everybody in this country that is eligible to hold the ECD will have access to a robust wallet and a functional one. The wonderful thing about this is that because we are digitizing the part of the value chain that is within our domain, it provides sterling opportunity for financial service providers to carry out a lot of innovation on the back of the ECD. This means that a lot more opportunity will be given to financial service providers that will want to deliver digital financial service to innovate at a very cheaper cost. And this is one of the wonderful takeaways of the ECD project. And this is something that is worth supporting. And I would use this opportunity to encourage every one of us to give his or her maximum support to this project. Already we have had wonderful support to this project, but this is to make another call on you and to get you to affirm by deeds your commitment to this very wonderful project. Now we have all of you here supported by banks. The wonderful work that you are doing is pictured here. At the end of the day, somebody will want to ask, what is in there for us? What is in there for all these entities? Ellie has spoken about a lot of those benefits: enhanced efficiency in interoperability. Those who are in the space will testify that there has been significant improvement. We continue to improve, but there's a limit to what we can do to improve upon our interoperability, especially the settlement that goes with it. Because mobile money operators are bound by one-to-one rule. One cedi electronic money, one cedi Ghana cedi sitting somewhere. You cannot issue electronic money without the backing of a corresponding Ghana cedi. The trick here is that when you are in an interoperability environment, funds move before settlement takes place. There is a lag. Meanwhile, when the funds have moved onto your platform, you need to let your beneficiary have the funds. There is a liquidity needs, then the credit issue come in, and that is a cost. These are some of the frictions in interoperability as at now. But with the fungibility nature of a currency and it being a digital one, going through the digital rails, of which GIPS is fantastically positioned to facilitate, it makes it easier to overcome some of this challenge. Improve access to liquidity and the risks associated with distributing funds across the country. Thank God our ears are now resting from the many news that were circulating in the social media and all forms of media about attacks on the mobile money agents. If you have an ECD, this is something that you can go to sleep because the person cannot access the money physically, and that protects you. You can also distribute liquidity to remote agents without the costs associated with fiscal cash movement. So this is one of the things that we have to think about. Boost payment efficiency. There are a lot of transaction costs associated with converting fiscal cash to digital and the clearing and the settlement side of it. It makes clearing easier and settlement easier. Simultaneously, these two things can happen, and all the frictions will be reduced. And doing that, the cost associated with payment will go down, both direct and indirect. Sometimes there's a cost build-up when you're dealing with a hierarchy of entities in the space. Once service provider gets the funds, provide a certain service, add a markup, push it to another one, another markup, push it to another markup. Notwithstanding the transmission of payment information that has happened instantly, you still need this leg to catch up with it. So that lag itself is of serious concern and impact ultimately on the total cost that the user will have to bear. And at the end of the day, it affects in a layered manner the bottom line of the various participants in the ecosystem. So it is very important. Trust. There are some people who say that, for me, the sikano enwano dia ekura wonsem no. And especially when they hear of a bad incident, someone's experience, bad experience, they wouldn't even find out what was the cause. Was it the person's fault? And they become risk-averse to anything digital. The central bank issuing digital currency will be a signal to the whole country that, look, Adianokra Bank of Ghana is also there. So what's the fear? And the fact that the ECD or the digital currency will be linked to digital financial service in so many instances will have a knock-on effect on them, a positive effect, and this will engender user trust in digital payments in general and the overall benefit to service providers. With end-to-end funds transfer, let's say ECD or CBDC, to a mobile money wallet, to an app of a payment service provider, a bank internet facility, that anonymity, which is provided in cash, is also provided in ECD. However, when need be, it could be traced because the origin of the funds will be known. And that is one good thing about it. But it doesn't mean that the central bank is going to be intrusive. No, the central bank is not going to be intrusive. It issues bulk. Retailing will be done by commercial banks and other payment service providers. But at the end of the day, if there's a risk to someone's assets or holdings and has to be traced, the system can make it easier for tracing to be done. And this is something that will be done on exceptional circumstances. At the end of the day, with all this improvement, what do we expect? We are able to scale up innovation, and some of the digital currencies are programmable. And that programmability of the digital currency means that we saw some things on smart contracts here and there. You can even design a credit facility, give some repayment moratorium, and program the digital currency in such a way that after a certain period, it will act in a certain way. These are some of the things that we can get from embracing innovation, particularly from the point of view of the central bank regarding digitalization of the currency that we currently have. I hope I have been able to give you a few food for thought, and thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clarence Blay. Please, let's hear it for him once again. He's the Assistant Director, Fintech Promotion and Innovation for the Bank of Ghana. I know you have a lot of questions for him. We'll get to put those questions to him as well. But we are live on City 97.3 FM on radio and all affiliates across the country. We're also live on Facebook, on YouTube, all social media platforms belonging to MTN Ghana. You can post your questions there as well once you watch and listen live. But I want you to imagine something. Buying airtime you need for the next week, the next month, doing so now. Or just arranging all the airtime you need in monthly installments. I bet you can imagine that. For those of us who need to buy airtime for low, do the rest. Now, all you have to do is to schedule airtime, is dial *170#, select option 3, and then select option 4. All you have to do is to just schedule airtime to register and choose from our daily, weekly, and monthly options. The best part is you get 100% bonus when you schedule airtime for yourself. So what are we doing? Let's do it now. If you have to schedule for your mother in the village, wherever they are, don't let people bother you. Just schedule it for them. By the time she realizes you have scheduled, and it will give you a lot of points as well. I would like to acknowledge, I know that we have members from the insurance sector here, financial services, we have the media, we have the telecoms, they are here. We have the MoMo agents and operators. Thank you for being here. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence once again of Mr. Achihese, CEO of Gibbs, here with us. We have Martha Akwe also here with us. She'll be coming shortly to give us her presentation. We also have Shaibu Haruna. He's a Chief Sales and Distribution Officer, MTN Ghana. Of course, you are here. Those listening live on radio also, many thanks for joining us. It's a good time to download MoMo, MTN MoMo, on your phones. It's not just the MTN app. Make it easy for yourself and download MTN MoMo. Whichever store you find yourself, is it the Play Store, the App Store, or the nearest store near you? Please make sure you do so. Whilst we talk about MoMo, it's a good time to hear impact stories. We are talking about impact of ECD, but let me tell you about a number of stories that we've heard about the impact of MoMo on people's lives. I'll start with the story of Muhammad Haruna, then we can get into the next presentation.
Mama me car, I signed the called Dubai. I'm changing my life. For Bupe hire 2010, and I'm starting mobile money or depot, Bupe Bridge, and anymore. Na me shall say kakra mobile money no. And me so I check. Me try transactions be brain. Obi so be sending mobile money. I me split it. Me transactions no. Say obi send the amount to be the same amount na me send money. Me mobile money sa and anything for e be hu me kakra. Omo be che me no be brain on me award 2019 no. Me say mobile na me call Accra Prada. Omo de me call Kumasi. Ona omo ko fa award no man. So after that, now I'm saying to be ever playing the car Accra, Esan Kotoa me support Dubai, Ebai. So the following year, and almost anche car so count.
Life was not that easy in the beginning.
Everything for a join the Oma Boami pa through a Juman media, Awari, I am Bibia, Abuse stock Rama Miri, Nusu, Ayaka Crackra. At first, maybe 2 Quancra, I had Diama, but say, Minafakana, by 2 to 3 hours, spend Masamba, Esan by Juma. MTN, Madam Wasi, Yamishram.
An agent from Buipe, all the way from Buipe. That's Mohammed's story. We'll get to hear other impact stories. But we've heard from the EMI perspective, we've heard the regulator. It's time to hear the bank's perspective. And to do that for us this morning, she has over 15 years of experience in retail and digital banking. She has worked with some reputable banks in the country and currently is the head of digital and inclusive banking at CalBank PLC. She has a degree in psychology and an MBA in marketing from the University of Ghana Business School. We have some alumni in the house. If you are here, please, let's join hands and give her a round of applause and welcome the head, digital and inclusive banking, CalBank, Madame Martha Akwe. Please do it better for her.
Good morning, stakeholders. I bring you greetings from CalBank. It's nice to see all of you. CalBank and MTN share colors, and so we are neighbors as well and partners in the MoMo business, and we are happy to be here. This morning, my focus in this presentation and then conversation on CBDC will be focused more on the role of banks in CBDC, how we come in, and how we impact the end user. It's nice to speak after the big brother because most of the work will be done for you and then you just continue from there. From bank perspective, we focus more on the evolution we've seen in the financial sector or services. I mean, we are looking at way back where we started from barter trade, moving on to notes, to coins, and then plastic cards mainly, and then coming money, has played a key role in this evolution, and it's worth noting and coming to this point where central bank is introducing the digital currency to continue the electronic money evolution. Let me mention that we are discussing digital currency today. We talk about mobile money, and it is very important to note that in the era of COVID-19, these services became very critical and served the masses and made sure that life went on. You can all imagine and rethink 2020, 2021, hiding in our rooms, fearing to die, having mobile money at our service, and we all know the benefits we gained. That moment actually made us all become very techie savvy. Whether you liked it or not, you were either going to use a USSD or an app to do a transaction. And then it also, of course, grew Fintech recognition and then innovation during the period. And that has brought us all here today to discuss digital currency and the impact on digital payments as well as monetary policy. Clarence spoke on this, Ellie also spoke on it, so I'll let it go, but it's worth noting that Ghana commenced our pilot for digital currency in June, and the pilot has been going well, and CalBank is proud to be the first bank to be part of this pilot, and as we progress, we'll show you what we've done as part of the pilot. So as banks, how are we coming into the central bank digital currency ecosystem? Our role will be to distribute the ECD. So most of us here are customers of banks. We are customers of fintechs. If you've signed on to one app or USSD, and you have the need to generate ECD at some point in time. And as banks, it's part of our responsibility to make sure that you can access ECD. So we are playing a middle role, as Clarence already mentioned, and we're going to move further as part of our role to create avenues for you to generate ECD and to be able to spend as well. Our role as banks in all this digital currency drive, innovation, I mentioned earlier on, we are going to be distributing ECD. We are also, as partners, going to make sure that all our channels are making ECD available. We are looking at traditional channels like the branches, as in banking halls. We are looking at using our apps, our ATM, USSD service, and other platforms as well. Some of us banks have been able to go into agent banking, where we've acquired agents in different areas, in rural and urban areas. We are looking at using these agents to serve customers. So you should be able to walk to any agent points of CalBank and generate ECD or download your, offload your ECD and get physical cash. These are all parts of the roles we seek to play in the ecosystem. There are merchants like the ECGs, Ghana Water, and other merchants who offer services, and some who also sell products. We are going to make provision to set these merchants up to be able to receive ECD, so that instead of walking to a merchant with cash and counting through and spending time, the best option here will be just to use your ECD to make payment. So that's another use case that we are working on as banks to make sure that customers are accessing the digital currency with ease. As I mentioned, as banks, we have critical role to play in the digital currency ecosystem. Using our channels is very critical, but we would have to do a lot of integrations, and that is where someone like Romeo and his team comes in. We'll need the assistance. So when Clarence was speaking, he spoke about fintechs, that we are all offering one fintech service or the other, and that is very true. And in doing this, we need to collaborate as partners, as stakeholders, or relevant parties to make the digital currency work. So there's going to be a lot of integrations we are going to do, and all this is to make sure to create convenience for customers in accessing digital currency. So we are looking at interoperability as well, being another platform that we are going to use to drive the digital currency. And when I talk about interoperability, I'm referring to you being able to trade with ECD between mobile money platforms, bank platforms, fintech platforms, and all other relevant platforms, so that customers can adopt easily the digital currency and make use of it. So we see a number of benefits here, and we are looking at it from the bank perspective and how central bank is also benefiting from it, and then for customers. So with regards to central bank, Ellie mentioned earlier on, the cost savings on printing of notes cannot be overemphasized. It's really going to go down. We also see a more effective means of settlement. The current mobile money platforms, there's the settlement bit that can take time. There's a gap here that Clarence also spoke about. And digital currency, the central bank digital currency, is going to actually reduce, if not clear, the settlement stress. And this is because settlement is instant. You've already acquired the e-value, it's sitting with central bank. So when bank A's subscriber uses and bank B subscriber uses this direct settlement, and everyone is happy, it means we are going to spend less time reconciling as banks and other stakeholders. It's also worth noting that Bank of Ghana has been working with GIPS for some years now to drive financial inclusion by introducing more platforms and more payment options. The digital currency is also an avenue to drive financial inclusion and also digitization. It's worth noting that provision has been made for customers not only to use the digital currency online, but offline as well. We are looking at our folks in the hinterlands or the rural areas and how they will be able to also access digital currency. It's going to come in the form of a card or other options available. And so this is going to help to drive inclusion because they are the ones that we are targeting in driving inclusion. For banks, we also see reduction of costs in the area of transportation of cash. You know, we usually request for physical cash from central bank, and then a big bullion with army people, and then all those support and security apparatus just to make sure that the cash arrives safely in the bank. We see reduction in the cost of doing that. We also see reduced risk associated with transporting cash. And then, of course, fast means of distributing cash. You come to the banking hall, we're going to have to count so many notes to give you maybe 10,000 Ghana cedi. By the click of the button, you have a virtual currency in your wallet, and you can proceed to spend. So we see that distribution of cash is going to be faster. So the general public, our customers, is going to create big convenience for customers. We see that there's going to be a reduced risk for customers in terms of carrying cash from the banking halls or from different agent outlets to their destinations. We also see there's going to be easy access to cash because the digital currency is going to be available not only in banks, but through channels as well. So you're going to be able to generate your digital currency without necessarily going to a bank, and that's the ease we are referring to. There's going to be ease in payments. I did mention merchant payments. That's also another area we are looking at, and for that matter, customers are going to be able to make payments to merchants with ease. Strategic implementation, CalBank. I did mention that CalBank is part of the pilot, so let me just move on to tell you what we've done as part of the pilot. So as a bank, we currently have made very good progress in terms of growth. We are recording about 9.8 billion Ghana cedi in assets with a capital adequacy ratio of 19%. We currently have 34 branches, and we grew our branches significantly in the last 2 years for the fact that we want to serve customers better, we want to create more convenience for customers, and we want to also give them proximity. So we've increased our branches significantly. We have over 110 ATMs, 150 POS, and over 400 agents and counting. And so we believe strongly that we're the right party for the pilot. And when I show you what we've done for the pilot, you would know we were actually well prepared for this innovation and initiative from the central bank. So currently we've deployed the ECD on our app. If you don't have the CalBank app, I encourage you to download it now from Play Store or Apple, and then you'll be able to access the ECD when we open it up to all customers. But we've deployed on the app. On our CalBank app, you'll be able to generate an ECD wallet as I speak if you're part of the pilot. You'll be able to fund the wallet. You'll be able to buy airtime with the wallet. You'll be able to also pay bills with the wallet for the merchants that we've set up on the app. So anyone who's part of the pilot currently can see the ECD as a menu or as a function on the CalBank app and proceed to utilize it. We've also deployed the digital currency on the CalBank USSD service, *771#. I must mention that ITC is our strategic partner for this service, and we've been able to deploy the ECD on the platform as well. On the USSD platform, you can also do the transactions I mentioned, generating an ECD wallet, making payments with the wallet, funding the wallet, transferring from one ECD wallet to the other, and also making payment to merchants. How are we moving on from the two applications I've mentioned so far? We have different customers who have adopted or subscribed to different channels, and we seek to serve them all as we progress from the pilot. We are seeking to implement the ECD on our online banking channel, the internet banking as most of us will call it, so that customers can generate ECD wallets. So if you don't have our app, you do not have the USSD, you can always transact using ECD on our online banking platform. We are also deploying the digital currency for all our agents. So you work to any CalBank agent, you'll be able to generate ECD, you'll be able to offload if you need to and take physical cash. And then also our branch network is going to be able to cash in and do cash out for customers with regards to the digital currency. We are making ECD payments also available for all our merchants on the different channels as we move on to phase 2 of implementation from the pilot. The central bank has done a good job by implementing the digital currency. The pilot has been very successful. We have a number of customers and then staff on the pilot, and we are growing the numbers. But it is worth noting that for the digital currency to work, it would take time for adoption to happen. And for that matter, the central bank approach to run ECD or digital currency side by side the normal notes and coins is a laudable one, and is going to make sure that this initiative is successful. And then also, we from the bank perspective believe strongly that the digital currency should be interest-free so that it does not create unhealthy competition between bank deposits and then the digital currency, because that is going to put a lot of stress on banking or the banking, the financial sector, because it will mean that we'll be competing on rates with the digital currency, and it also means that our deposits are going to go down, and as much as our deposits go down, we should note that our cost of funds is going to be high, and for that, lending, the cost of lending is going to be very high. So we encourage the central bank as part of the critical success factors to consider interest-free digital currency. We believe strongly that as part of the critical success factors, there's the need for a very intensive education and engagement. And I applaud MTN, Mobile Money, and the team for putting together this program, because this is also another avenue for us to discuss, brainstorm, and share ideas on the digital currency. I believe strongly that thought leadership conversations like this one and other fora are very necessary to make sure that everyone, every Ghanaian is aware of the digital currency and adopts it. Finally, one critical factor is for us to push towards using the digital currency for payments. I say this based on experience over the years on mobile money, where customers have adopted, but their focus is just to do cash in, cash out most of the time. It is very relevant that we push towards using the digital currency for merchant payments and then for other payments on channels, so that we do not end up growing our already high inflation rate by putting too much cash in the system, but rather to use the channels to circulate the digital currency. As banks, we are very well prepared. Cowbank has been in the pilots. Other banks have joined, and I believe all the commercial banks will be part of it very soon when the pilot is over, because we'll be in the middle of this whole ecosystem, distributing cash to relevant parties, merchants, our customers, and making sure the end users have access to digital currency. So from pilots done so far and what we've observed, I believe strongly the banks are ready and well positioned to contribute our portion in this innovation and making it work. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Madam Martha Akwe. Please give it up for her once again. She's the head digital and inclusive banking. So we've heard the perspective from the banks. It's a good time to bring you the perspective of the fintechs. And to do us the honors this morning, let's welcome our speaker. Thank you. I must say, I heard her talk about inflation. And breaking news, as we speak, we've hit 31.7. And it's just coming in. Well, we'll break for the news shortly, and then we can get more. But I must say, we're live on City 97.3. We are live on Facebook, and also on YouTube. It's MTN Ghana. And it's time to hear the fintech perspective. And the man to do us the honors has over 25 years of executive leadership experience in consulting, insurance, and technology spaces. He has contributed to the success and technology transformation of companies in many, many, many varied fields. He has a deep understanding of the fintech space and has been a voice on many issues pertaining to the digitization of the financial ecosystem. He is currently the chairman of the Governing Council of the Technology Chamber of Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's welcome Mr. Romeo Buje. He is the Chief Executive Officer of IT Consortium. You can do it better, please.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. I'm wondering what else I have to say. They've said everything that I had planned to say. So please pardon me if you hear the thing that had already been said. But it's, I consider this as a very innovative thing that Bank of Ghana is doing. And to do this, I mean, just to be able to talk through this, I want us to just look a bit about the evolution of money. I know that has been talked about. And I want to place this in context of how this digital CD or the CBDC is all about. I mean, we started with bartering where I determine the value of what I'm giving to you and you determine what you are giving to me. So if I want to give you an iPhone, I determine what it is and you determine what you are giving to me. We agree and we exchange. And then came to the aspect of central bank coming in when subsidiaries of individuals decided to issue notes. But then central bank comes in and create a value and a platform for the exchange of the notes. So we moved to the physical cash, which we've been using. And in here, it is the technology that was put around physical cash that allows us to be able to move into the digital space using the physical cash. So I remember when we started as a company and we wanted to enhance movement of cash, we brought a platform which we call Transflow that allows people to be able to go to the bank, make payments, digitally transfer that data to our schools and give value to the students and solve a lot of problems with the institutions. And doing that at that time, we used it to solve reconciliation issues, even though it brought up other things alongside. So with that, we came to this electronic payment. So electronic payment actually contains the CD or the notes that we are using as an exchange of goods and services. So if we look at these apps, the cards and everything, we are actually looking at the physical cash that has been transferred, that has been changed into data that allows us to be able to move. So when I move data from one point to another, the cash doesn't move. The cash stays, then after a while, the cash moves. So if I send money to Ghana, I'm actually sending data to Ghana. Then after a while, the money itself will come through the formal channels so that you can have value. But I promise you value. So the value that I've promised you becomes cost to me when you receive that money. And I guess these are some of the ways that we're trying to solve the problems that the Bank of Ghana talked about and earlier and others have talked about. So with this virtual currency, so even though the CD or the notes had been digitized, it is still backed by the physical cash. What we are trying to do at this point is to remove the physical cash. And removing of the physical cash started even before central banks started thinking about it. And that is where the cryptos came in. And I'm sure many people here would want to understand, then what is the difference between crypto and what we are talking about, the ECD? Basically, they are the same. They are basically the same, but its implementation is different. So we are all using the blockchain technology in this space. So I talk a little bit about if we use blockchain for exchange of money on the global stage, controlled by no one, it is crypto. If we use it in a silo, controlled by a regulator, then we are talking about a CBDC. So you realize that it is the same technology that we are using across, but this helps us to be able to control the risk that is associated with the global. So there are people who wonder, why don't we allow individuals to determine the value of what I produce? Like I said in the beginning, why don't you allow me to determine that this thing for me is this? It can buy your suit. And you say that, look, you can't buy my suit, so let's argue about it. And we come up to a point, and then we exchange goods and services. When we do that, what is going to happen is that we're going to have a lot of problems. Okay, and that is why stability of all these things come about. So even though blockchain is very important in what we are doing, which is the same as what we are talking about, we are, from the central bank perspective, bringing stability, trust, so that we will all be able to work under the same platform. So if I have a silo in Ghana and I have a silo in Nigeria, how do I make sure that the Central Bank of Nigeria controlling that and the Central Bank of Ghana controlling it can work together? So for us, looking at this ECD, which we joined in a pilot, it is actually similar to the crypto. It's basically the same technology that is being used but applied differently. And so the CD physical then becomes CD digital. So we are not backing the CD we are not backing ECD technically with the physical CD. we are actually converting that into a digital currency. And people have always asked me, so what is the difference between mobile money and ECD? Are they not the same? But they are not. When you take mobile money, it contains currency, contains cedi. So you have the physical cedi sitting in the vault of a bank that has one-to-one with that data that represents you. At this time, we are not going to use the physical money sitting in a vault, but we are using the digital money that has been minted by the central bank that represents what you are doing. So in our implementation, we want to look at how, obviously, the PSPs or the Fintech deals in this. One of the things that I think is very, very important is that when you take, and I think Clarence talked about the fact that we are using the tokenization, strategy for Ghana. So the tokens that are minted by central bank are the units. So it is actually in pesos. So the tokens that you have will be in pesos. So if I'm giving you 10,000, I'm actually giving you 10,000 tokens. 10,000 tokens, and that is what we deal with. That entity is anonymous, so we don't know. Even though from technology point of view, we can identify it. So it becomes the role of PSPs, fintechs, banks, and things like that to create an identity for this token that is being used. But at the base of it, we'll be able to track this single token that has been issued. So for this to work, then the PSPs create the interoperability between these silos that might be created, which we don't want to exist. Today, if I have $1 and I don't want any money to be linked to $1, I want my money to be cedi and cedi alone. But anytime you talk about it, it has to be linked to a particular currency. So when we create access between these silos that could be created, then it will allow us to be able to move these, tokens across silos and be able to track them. If today I give you physical cash, 100 Ghana cedi, that is it, you can't track it. And so people who don't want to be known like to use physical cash. If I give physical cash to you, that is it. But if I give a token to you, yes, Bank of Ghana might not want to be involved, but we should be able to track it, whether it is online or offline. So what is going to happen to the wallets that are going to be created, especially for fintechs and things like that? We will create it as a custodian wallet. It is, we don't carry asset liability, but just as a custodian wallet. And it is completely linked to the source that minted it. Yes. So PSPs would facilitate greater use participation at a lower cost. And especially for the fintech space, what will really happen is that all the hierarchies are going to be broken down. So when central bank mints money to an entity, that entity doesn't have to go through any other hierarchy to be able to make use of it. With that, if we're able to really do this, what is going to happen is that just as everybody in this country uses a physical cash, if we get to that point, what it will mean is that every entity in this country, every human being will be able to access the ECD. And if we achieve that, then obviously we achieve the financial inclusion that we are looking for. So even though it will run parallel with the physical cash, my view is that as time goes on, we will minimize the use of the physical cash and increase the use of the digital money. when mobile money first started, it was the same. A lot of people were just using it for cash out. But as the ecosystem grew, the fintechs, the PSPs started bringing different ways that people can do payment. What happened was that people now started keeping money on their wallet. I don't need to convert it to physical cash for me to make payment to someone, because there are agents, merchants that are on it that I can directly pay to. So I don't need to go and convert it to anything. I can always pay it to you. So during the pilot, that is what we try to do. So we have an app which Bank of Ghana helped us to get people using. I can then transfer ECD to you. And I think all the speakers have talked about the settlement. For me, it's one of the biggest advantage of this digital currency that we are trying to implement. Today, if I pay anything to you, or you give me money to give it to someone, which we do a lot, when you give that money to me, and I tell you that the other person has it, it is because I have promised that person, and I carry that liability until I move the money to the person. So international money transfer, this is how it works. You take your card, you send the money, all we receive is data. When we receive the instruction here, we automatically move the money to the person's wallet. Why? Because we have money stored there. If there is no money, the transaction won't go. But the money itself would have to move from wherever it is coming to this country before it happens. But when we have digital currency, where you have countries linked on their silos, then what is going to happen is that if I'm sending a token to you, I'm actually sending a token based on an exchange rate that comes to you directly. And there are two ways we can do that. Either we are doing store of money where we are funding each country, or what we are doing is to be able to move it and reconcile later. But with the internal thing, what happens is that once the money moves, it moves to your wallet store. And that is it. Nobody does reconciliation when I give you cash and you give me service. No. And that is what is going to happen. Another example in investment. Today, if I give money for investment, the risk involved is that the money hasn't been given, but the investment company is obliged to give you value. What they do is that they do their mathematics and remove some days from it. You won't do the calculation, so you won't know. Even though they've told you that it is 30 days, really the 30 days is not what they give you. But now, if I give money for investment, immediately the investment can start. And that is, for me, it's a big advantage. Government tax. When we started, if you go back to the fiscal cash, when we started with banks collecting money, and then this money being sent to central bank, I think the best you can get by maybe 30 days for reconciliation before the money moves. Now we've been able to move it to 48 hours based on the fact that the money is actually there, held in a bank and things like that. But with this, when money is paid, government has their money instant. That creates good liquidity for the country. And the same for all of us. So when you send money to me, I have it immediately. And for us, as we build technology and use case for this, that will help us remove the inefficiency in settlement and allow people to have access to their money immediately. So learning point from the pilot, I've already talked about the settlement. And then, so what we did was that we have set up a number of merchants already on the app that allows you to be able to use ECD to make payment. You can actually fund your mobile wallet with ECD instantly. You can fund your mobile wallet with ECD. You can move money, and one of the things that we've done also is to be able to create a link between the offline card and the online wallet, so that we will be able to exchange ECD in between the wallet and the card. What this happens is that if I am in a place where there is no network, nearness of the card allows me to be able to exchange money and to be able to fund my account. And this for us is a very good thing that will help us to be able to. So the offline model, which we piloted, the Bank of Ghana piloted in the Western region, really excited the people there. Because now, for them also, they are able to exchange money for goods and services without any massive infrastructure. And that is where we want to get to. So for us and for the fintechs and the technology people here, it's an exciting time for us. We are always faced with difficulties and challenges. And I believe that as we think through this, and after we come up with technology that allows us to be able to, move offline and online, trace the tokens that are being moved around, that will enhance transparency, traceability, and that will give us strong hold of avoiding people using currency for, terrorism activities. Today, if I cash a bag full of money and I go distributing, you won't know. For where we are going, if I put money on a card for distribution, in a way we'll be able to track you and know where the tokens originated and where it is, so that in the moment it comes online, we'll be able to know. For cross-border payment, I think I've talked a bit about it, but this will be possible when the central banks begin to talk. Otherwise, what we are going to have is that we are still going to have the crypto overtaking us in everything we do because they are already global. So as Nigeria goes live, Ghana piloting, I'm hoping that the central banks will be talking so that there will be a link between these two entities. So when I'm sending money to Nigeria, I'm not sending anything but tokens that are recognized in Nigeria and vice versa. And what this will help us is making our sub-region closer and closer. The European Union is implementing a similar thing, but they start on a bigger plate because they are already using the single currency. We are still in our silos, and I think that this will be a way by which we can improve cross-border payment without having to go through all the hurdles that we are struggling with. So I challenge the central bank to begin to talk so that our citizens could make use of this and not have to wait another 20, 30 years for this. Thank you very much.
Bump you up and give you the first choice in terms of the seats. I will go for an impact story shortly, but before then, I would want to invite all our speakers to come up stage so that we can take a few questions. I know it's lunchtime. We'll get each shortly. I have a treat for all of you. So please, with a round of applause, let's welcome all our speakers upstage once again. Mr. Elihine, CEO, Mobile Money Limited. We also have Madam Martha Akwe, Head, Digital and Inclusive Banking. And then Mr. Romeo Buje, CEO, IT Consortium, already upstage. Please, let's hear it for them as they come up.
Once upon a time, a sound was heard across the nation. A sound of freedom. A sound of hope. A sound of the future. The sound of MTN MoMo.
Using mobile money is fast and convenient.
There's no time bound for when to send and receive money.
Previously, I used to join long queue to send money to the family. Now I sit in my home to send money using mobile money app.
You can send money at any time and from anywhere. And the charges are very affordable too.
The new legislation, the Electronic Money Issuers Guidelines, which also included interest on mobile money wallets for customers and agents, was the much-needed game changer that opened the vistas to stimulate customers and attract them to open new accounts so as to become financially included. Financial inclusion is an important element in formalizing Ghana's economy. Mobile money has been a key driver in this space over the past decade.
The MTN mobile money service has contributed over 220,000 mobile money agents to the job market, providing formal employment to 5,000 of them.
I started MTN almost 7 years. I started with credit card and as I say, I do mobile money. I started mobile money man. I buy one so I started with small showcase. By net, I'm met me in branches baby. Many workers bear 10 and let me boy me booking for edit me bus school fees ni million.
The growth of the network of MoMo agents has become a major source of employment and revenue generation.
I've been in this mobile money business for 10 good years. Since the commission has been so good and so great, I've been able to get myself 5 shops.
I've had a change of life with MTN MoMo, because I didn't start like this. I started on a very small table. I moved to umbrella, a canopy, and now I have a container.
MTN MoMo is currently promoted and accepted at many service points and has contributed immensely to cutting down on losses. MTN MoMo has come to mean so many different things to so many people. To some, it represents a promise fulfilled. To others, it represents a simpler and smarter way to do business. And to others, it represents equality, an equal playing field for all.
Before MTN MoMo Yellow Save was introduced, I found it very difficult to save money as a student. But after MTN MoMo Yellow Save was introduced, it was an easier and convenient way for me to save money with my mobile phone, which I used to get textbooks and other learning materials as a student.
MTN MoMo.
While it can be said that a lot has been achieved by MTN Mobile Money, indeed, MTN had a dream to bring financial freedom and inclusion to not just a handful of Ghanaians, but to all. The dream has become a reality with MTN MoMo. That's why we are celebrating each and every one of you for believing in us and allowing us to be a part of your stories. Let's celebrate financial freedom with MTN MoMo. Just Momo it.
Well, so that's another impact story, and it raises a number of questions that most people would want to ask, especially Mr. Blay, for instance. What then happens to Mohammed and the rest of them that we've heard from them with the introduction of ECD? It's a lot of issue that people are raising. You mentioned that you're not hoping to supplant, which are your words, but the concern is it appears with the introduction of the ECD, you may be crippling this industry. Whilst you chew on that, I would want to hear briefly before you answer that question, so please ponder over that question. We would want to ambush Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe. We can have him in here and not hear from him a word or two. At least he will represent the telcos. He's a CEO of the Telecoms Chamber. So please, if you can hand over a microphone to him. Mr. Hesse, I will be, okay, they've sent it to him, or I'll be ambushing you as well, so that we can briefly hear from you, then we can take the questions.
So you see, I saw the microphone. I was wondering what the microphone was doing, whether it was so that I pass them around for others to deal with. Well, I think this is, for me, wearing my hat as an engineer, the thing I like about this particular project is the fact that we're piloting it. We're not spending a lot of time sitting down trying to analyze, but we're actually piloting it, finding out what this would do. So, sitting down, the thing that has been going through my mind is that with this pilot, in this particular forum, all I have heard is the good part of it, is the nice parts of it. The question I would want to ask to all the 4 of them sitting down is that in the pilot, what are the challenges that have come, and what are the things to our benefit? I also said, and then I'm also happy about the fact that for once, we're going to be able to deal with this challenge of cross-border transfers, especially amongst us as Africans, because you find out that most of the systems that we currently use are systems that depend on having to let the money go to Europe, to Americas, before coming to us again. So I'm hoping that the central banks will begin to talk more. But for us in Ghana, if even Ghana and Nigeria would be able to start that, then would be able to demonstrate to the rest of them that do not really have such a developed system of how this should go. So my question would be to the four of them, that out of this pilot, I know MTN were not involved in this pilot, but I would want to ask at least the three who are involved in it, and from the central bank as well, what are the things that we've seen that we need to start thinking about so that we can come up with solutions to it? And the great things about pilots is that you do that, you deal and enhance the positive parts of it, but also the negatives, you are also able to deal with it before you bring it to the larger ecosystem.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ashigbe. Mr. Achihese, we'll ambush you as well and see if you have a word or two to chip in, then we can start taking our answers.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and of course MTN for putting up such a forum. I think it's in line with the development of payment systems in the world, and I think it's something that we should all applaud MTN for. My question is, I read from the presentations that it's been implemented in the Caribbean more than anywhere else. Are there any learning curves, any learnings that we can take from there? It will be important, maybe in this current dispensation, we could have had their central banks or the various stakeholders remotely talking to us about. It's in line with what Ken is talking about, any lessons learned. But without a doubt, that's where payment is evolving into, and there's a need for us to start participating, or at least playing a role in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll get to hear your questions also soon, but it's a good time for us to take answers. Maybe we'll start with you, Mr. Blay, because we have others that we will take as well. They've asked specifically about the challenges that you've come across during the piloting, and then the issues, the implementation in the Caribbean, any key learnings or curves that we've noticed there. And then you can add Haruna and the rest, how it's going to affect them. Are you crippling the MoMo industry?
This is a very interesting question, and I'll call it a trial question, 3 in 1, and this is a question that we anticipated. I think what has helped us as a central bank is that from the word go, we did a comprehensive engagement with the stakeholders in this country, and our focus was more on financial inclusion. So the challenges that one will expect by bringing digitalization to the doorstep of people who are outside the core of the country where everything is fine, was critical to us. So we have the opportunity to speak to our brothers in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean, Jamaica, and based on their experience, we learned a lot from them. A number of Zoom interaction, fiscal interaction with the Philippines and all the other countries that are on the same journey. We learned quite a lot from them, and that has informed the kind of model that we have adopted. And our intent is appropriately captured in the white paper that we have published on our website. And on this journey, as we are piloting, we're still open to suggestions, to discussions here and there. So the white paper is actually to solicit for more input into what we are doing, even though you may not be involved in the pilot. If you read the white paper and you see some things that need to be enhanced, then you can bring your comment to us. So we have provided an address for you to contact us so that you can make your inputs to the whole project. With regards to the pilot, it's currently ongoing, and we'll bring it to a closure soon. And when we finish, we will be able to, and a report is drafted, we'll be able to share lessons with the industry. But I can say that the critical thing is about trust, service availability. These are the two things that our people need. They want a product that is trusted, a product that is safe and secure, a product that will be available to them. They want to get used to it, and as they get used to it, they want it to be available at all times. This is one of the things that we realize. And but the details, we can, when we finish everything and put a report together, then we can.
You know
come
how
out
soon is soon? When exactly the piloting will be over, and we have any timelines in the implementation for the ECD?
Well, the pilot will be over very soon, and it will be over very soon. So when we finish the pilot, then we will look at the moment, we are looking at the two together, pilot completing and the modalities for mainstreaming it. So we are looking at it. We are looking at all those things together.
Okay.
Yeah. Concerning those who are currently facilitating access to digital payment as agents, in my presentation, I did indicate that this is going to be a positive disruption. It means that all the actors in the space are going to benefit from this development. The central bank is not going to issue a fiat that, look, from today onwards, everything has to be digital currency. No. We recognize that the space is made up of diverse persons with diverse needs, and for inclusivity, it is very important that the need of each and every one of us is catered for. Somebody will want to use physical cash, the notes and coins. We have to provide them with that means of payment. Somebody who wants to make use of the digital currency, we have to make it available. We are talking about a portfolio of payment instruments, and we are facilitating this change, which users have signaled to us that this is the direction that we are going. But we are not trying to take away cash, the notes and coins, and replacing it with the digital currency. We are responding to your needs. And I must say that this is not different from what is happening in other parts of the world. I remember 2008, 2009, I had the privilege of being with the Reserve Bank of Australia for about a month on a steady visit. And one of the things that they were grappling with was whether to keep check or to let check go. They even came out with timeline. The UK also did the same. But as I'm talking now, check is there. From the discussions that we've been having, there are people who still want to use check. It gives them utility. So the central bank is mindful of minority interest, and will make sure that your interest is protected.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
Thankfully, it appears that the fiat currency has no fiat attached to it in this case. Okay. But there's this concern also. We know that we have e-levy in the system. We are bringing ECD. I've seen a question about what is the next E that is coming. But maybe we can hear from Madam Akwe on the piloting. I know that we've been doing it for a while. There have been questions about the challenges of this. And do we need a bank account to have an ECD?
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So you don't need a bank account to have an ECD wallet. It's a virtual wallet, just holding the representation of a physical cash you would have carried. So we're encouraging non-customers of banks to just sign up to various applications from banks, from fintechs, and then generate an ECD wallet and then fund it for their daily transactions. And then also with regards to the pilot, I wouldn't say we've had major challenges. For our technology team, integrating a wallet is something they've done already in the past. The bank has its own wallet. Remember, we are partner to the telcos, so we've done some integrations with them in the area of wallet creation and then transactions. So it's not something new. So we've really not had major challenges. What I would say is a bit of concern with the digital currency is the online bit of it and retrieval of value when the instrument carrying the value is lost. So that's an area that I believe the central bank needs to look at critically so that we can retrieve value for the people who are holding cards and other instruments for offline ECD value. I think initial piloting, we saw some difficulty with ECD wallet to account transfers, but that was resolved. So now you can easily move funds from your account to fund your ECD wallet and then also do the reverse. So I would say generally the pilot has been good.
Okay. Well, the issue about our digitization agenda as a country is on. I've seen a question about whether the payment systems and the EMIs or the MoMo and what we have is not digital enough such that we have to have another digital transaction in the form of ECD. But it's a good time to bring in our audience as well, if we have any questions in there. But I would want to find out from Mr. Eli, is MoMo threatened by this? Are we entertaining any fears as such when it comes to this central bank digital currency?
Thank you, MFA. Before I go to that, let me just also indicate that during my presentation, I indicated the technical issues that can come up with platforms like this. And today, I also know that the Caribbean implementation has had some issues, and they've been offline for some weeks. So instances like that can create challenges, because if that becomes a central platform where people have kept their digital currency rather than keeping their physical cash, then you understand the challenges. That is why it's important that whatever we do, we build a very robust platform such that there are redundancies that can support switchovers and fallovers as well, so we don't get stuck with challenges like this, because it can create a lot of difficulties. Now, if you now move into the actual implementations, we want to look at the opportunities we see. First of all, you said, why are we, when we have all this? Today, in the mobile money ecosystem, one of our key area of, I would say, inefficiency is around settlement. And there are some requirements on pre-funding, even for certain transactions to happen, which means you must hold money to be able to execute one transaction or the other. So with this ECD implementation, it allows us to have instant value for transactions. So the settlement part becomes more efficient. So that works. Of course, what it also means is that if today, like Romeo said, I have my money in an account and I want to access a service, that service may not necessarily be available via the channel of ECD. So I will have the opportunity to take that, move the money into my other wallet, in this case could be MoMo, to be able to execute the next transaction. So it also requires some amount of investment in an ecosystem development, because you can't take ECD and pay to somebody. It doesn't happen. That person must also have been set up to receive the ECD. So you need to build a network of merchants who must accept or who are able to interact with the ecosystem to do that. So that investment is also required. So it's not, and those investments will now have to come from institutions like the PSPs, EMIs like us to do that. And it will be interesting to see how that will be supported, because I mean, if you look at the journey of mobile money and the investments that have gone in, and how long we've traveled, so then you understand. So that's also something, the investment part of how we build the ecosystem. But like I said, we would also look at the side that it enables in terms of settlement and others. Now, when you come to how we are set up today, we have an agent network, and you referenced we would also have to look at how the agents themselves reorganize their operations. You can't continue to do the same things. Just like when mobile money came, agent network was built to support it. That had to do things differently. So they would also have to look at how their businesses are reformed to support this as it comes along. And I said it will require an ecosystem development. They would have to be part of that development. And be part of that development means the things that will support their continuous existence would have to be looked at. And they must look at that to become or remain relevant, because other people would sit into that opportunity and other businesses will be built as a result. So agents would have to look at how their businesses evolve to support the ECD ecosystem, because essentially, if I'm a customer today and I have my ECD account and I want to fund my MoMo, based on what we've all discussed, I can fund it without necessarily engaging an agent. But there would also be an aspect of an activity that will require an intervention that the agent can still play a role. So those are the things we need to think about. So there's a number of conversations around this. And the reason why we chose to discuss this was to allow all of us to discuss it, pick up the issues, and look at where the opportunities are, where the difficulties are, and work together as an industry, together with the central bank. Because when Clarence was speaking, he talked about the fact that we are in this because we also want to manage another risk, which comes from the crypto side, where there is limited control, versus this which has control and gives the central bank a bit more comfort around its implementation. So we need to look at it and make sure that we are taking the right steps, taking the right decisions, and avoid challenges that today we've just discussed around the technology and the efficiencies that comes with it. So those will be my submissions on the matter. Thank you.
Well, Romeo, I'm sure that once we get the questions, we'll come to you also on that, because the issues about the challenges, you know the technology properly, so you can tell us more about it. Do we have any questions from the audience? I see a number of hands up. So the gentleman in suit right in front, I saw your hand first. We'll take a batch of 3. Then, oh yes, your hand is also up. Let's take your question as well.
They're typically driven by the users. It's kind of like user-driven. And so you have like communities and societies who kind of like drive that. In this particular case of ECD, is it being driven by the end user? And what state of adoption are we going to say is critical enough for it to really gain, for it to, for instance, call it success?
Okay, your name, please. I'm sorry.
My name is Arnold Kawarpo.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Please, can we take the second question on the same table? Your name, if possible, your institution, then your question.
I'm afraid you don't know my name.
I know your name, sir,
okay.
But the others don't.
My name is Sami Dowona. I work with TechG24. I'm trying to ask a very practical question based on some of the things I've heard. We're saying that ECD is going to cut costs of transactions. Like for instance, if I'm doing transaction with ECD, my cost is less. I'm saying that with MoMo, when I'm using MoMo for a transaction, when I send the money, I'm supposed to pay transfer fees. Are we saying that with ECD, when I do a transaction with ECD, there will not be transfer fees? Because when I have cash in my pocket and I'm going to pay with it, I will not pay any transfer fee when I'm using cash.
Woman age, Sammy, you can go on.
Hello. Okay. Is it going to be the same with ECD, or with ECD because it's digital, I'll be paying transfer fee? In that sense, why wouldn't I rather use cash? The second question, I think Ellie spoke to it, that when I'm paying with cash, there will not be technical challenges. But with MoMo, there are times when the MoMo platform has got some technical challenges because of which I will not have access to my money. I think Ellie just said that even with the Caribbeans, they are having some challenges. So people's monies are on the platform and they may not be able to access it. So in this sense, how is ECD equal to cash? Is ECD behaving like cash or is behaving like mobile money? Please, can you, if you can speak to these issues for me. Thank you.
Sammy, thank you. We have a final, please, on this table. Yes, please.
Thank you. My name is Eric.
That's fine. Please go on.
Okay, my name is Eric Kwekumensa. I work with E-Crime Bureau. So my question is in relation to financial crime and anti-money laundering on the platform. Now, we've all have heard about cryptocurrency mixes. That helps in anonymity, anonymizing the sender and then the receiver. Now, from the submission or from the presentation, we heard that there's going to be that traceability, knowing who sends to who. Now, there's that risk where the cryptocurrency mixer concept can come in. How has the ECD been positioned to mitigate that risk, in a larger sense, money laundering? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone can take this briefly. So Sami, and then we had a first one, issues about cryptocurrency being user-driven. ECD, would it be end user-driven? What exactly will be the situation? Briefly.
Thank you for all the wonderful questions and the exciting one that came from Ellie concerning the interruptions in the $100 service delivery. From the word go, Bank of Ghana considered the fact that for a currency to be accepted, it has to be trusted, and availability is a critical consideration. On the basis of that, our choice of a solution partner was something that we critically looked into. And you are all aware, it's a public information, that we are working with GND. And to give a little information about GND, GND is a German company that has currency matters and payment as its business. It's been in existence for more than a century. And it is a global, I would say, the largest entity when it comes to currency and payment issues. And their very future survival hinges on their ability to be able to respond to the evolution of payments in the world. So they are doing extensive research in digital currency, and we thought it wise that, look, these are people that we do business with. This is a reputable company. Why don't you go with this entity? Now, with all the concerns of availability, BOG has put in place an elaborate risk management system, redundancy, and BCP issues to make sure that if we happen to go live with the ECD, these issues will be addressed. Okay. Even the offline is also a measure of risk management in the ECD, proposed ECD environment. Okay. The user-driven aspect, I think it's also something that I have spoken about earlier on, concerning how the fiscal currency is going to exist with the digital one. But the attribute of free, vis-a-vis, free, I put it in quotes, because there are a lot of costs associated with the fiscal currency that I think we don't have enough time to go into it. But what we are saying when it comes to ECD being free is that it will be free of charges.
No e-levy.
The central bank will not
no e-levy on
place
ECD.
any charge on ECD.
Okay.
But there could be other fees that may come from the service provider. That may come from the service provider based on the value-added service that they are giving. But the core function, it will be free. And when we talk about cost reduction, currency cost starts from minting, warehousing, distribution, security, insurance, and a whole lot of things. My sister here, who works in a bank, will tell you that it costs them a lot of money to manage currency. The same with the central bank. So the total cost influence how much one has to pay in using a currency.
Okay.
The unfortunate thing is that as individuals, when we are using the fiscal currency, we are oblivious of the cost, but there is a cost.
Okay. Mr. Blay, no, Mr. Buje, I'm sure that there were questions also about money laundering and how the city versus the cryptocurrency, we're going to be able to cure that. I saw that in your presentation as well. Maybe briefly you can add to some of the things that has been said so far.
Okay. Yes, I mean, I think we talked about the traceability, which technically doesn't exist. It exists in the cash, but it's very difficult to manage because every note has a unique identifier, but it's very, very difficult to be able to track within the physical space. So the traceability of the tokens, in a way, as we apply technology to it, will allow us to be able to know who is actually carrying what. I mean, there is a way by which you can create anonymity around it. But if something happens, as Clarence said, and we need to trace, we will be able to trace it easily and quicker than using physical cash. So movement of money can be controlled in terms of the way we do it also in mobile money, where we have limits. So the limit can actually be put on the card. If you are using offline, policies can be used to determine that your offline, you can't carry more than this. And that restricts how people can easily go around these kind of things. So the policies will help in managing that risk that we are talking about. And the technology that can be put on it then will help us to be able to easily link back to the online system so that we will know who is doing what in that space. So yes, money laundering is something that is big in this that helps us to be able to solve. Yeah.
Okay. But is there a particular reason why, as part of the piloting, and also making sure that we develop this ecosystem, the existing one, we do not have the telcos, for instance, as part of this whole piloting? Mr. Blay, maybe you could help with that,
Yeah,
or
I think,
you do that, okay.
Vodafone is part of the pilot.
The what?
Vodafone.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. We have any more questions, please? Final batch of questions. Okay. Gentleman in blue, please. Okay, you first, because I skipped you the last time. Yeah.
I'm the PR for Mobile Money Agent Association of Ghana.
Super.
I'm happy that we have leadership in the country who is thinking through the digital space for more solutions to our problem. But my question is, we have a problem as a country with adoption. Even for 12 years now since the implementation of MoMo, over 68 to 70% of our customers cannot even allow cash out on their wallet. How is it going to be done with this CBDC? Secondly, I will also want the leadership to further engage the agent association so that we see the headway, because as one of the speakers said, if care is not taken, our jobs will be taken over. And as leadership, our major threshold is to make sure we safeguard the treasure of our people. That is the agent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, gentleman in blue. We have a final one, so that the last three, then we are done. Okay, from you then.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Romeo, just like Romeo on the stage.
Where's your Juliet?
Okay, so I think there's a question that Clarence has dodged that has to do with the e-levy. He didn't answer that. So basically in the payment system, there are two components of cost. One has to do with processing, and now we have e-levy. Now the LI was clear on what is going to be covered in e-levy, so maybe Clarence skipping it is fair. So just to say, he made mention that even if there will be anything free, that will be transactional fee, which means that whether you like it or yes, you pay e-levy for ECD. Then comes the bigger question. Is it what we need right now? If I can mention to you, currently, if you look at the global chart, Ghana seems to be on the rapid space of payments. And as at the 16th of June, the Vice President launched Ghana Pay. And even that, as the agent mentioned and everyone, adoption is one of the big issues that we have. Now, if you look at the benefit of what ECD is bringing, I'm splitting it 90 to 10. 90, we are good. The 10 had to do with what Ellie mentioned, the liquidity issues. Currently, agents find it very difficult to get fiscal cash to back. Now, we're talking ECD, and we are saying that ECD equally need fiscal cash backing. Then I think that is what the focus should be, where we are providing agents with the concept of that trust. Because there are some banks who will have to give fiscal cash to motor riders to deliver to their agents, for the agents to use those fiscal cash to support their e-cash. So if we are talking now, let's do something that will give that trust or that comfort. I think the focus should be on providing that access to agents, not we customers. Because Ghana Pay right now, I tell you, we basically working between banks, mobile money. I'm moving my money from my mobile money, MTN, Vodafone, Airtel, Tigo, to Ghana Pay, or from my bank account to Ghana Pay. The fiscal cash concept is missing. So for me, I'm asking, do we need the ECD now, or we need to provide that average where agents and customers are able to transact freely, and the banks are able to equally realize their liabilities as pure liabilities other than splits?
Okay. Romeo, thank you so much for the question and the recommendations and the suggestions as well. The final one. Please, gentlemen, your hand is up right there. I think we need to call on MTN and the Telecoms Chamber to give us another edition of the Stakeholders Forum so that the discussion does not end here. We have more questions. Your question, please.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Eli from MOMAG, Mobile Money Advocacy Group, Ghana. My first question is that, like my brother said, Romeo, looking at the ECDs and how it operates, it means that most of the people will call on the agent for physical cash. And that means we need to increase the physical cash we hold in our various points. Currently, we are facing the issue of robbery, generally on MoMo. And so it means we increasing the cash will put us in a higher risk of being attacked. So I want to ask, is there any provision made for this regard? Then my second question is in relation to what Romeo said. We are currently having liquidity issues as MoMo agents. And so introducing the ECDs means we need a lot of cash. Is there a way the banks are going to support the agents in this situation? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you. But you can keep the questions coming in. If you're watching on social media, you can post your questions there. We'll harvest them and find a way of giving you answers to those questions. So we'll take responses to the questions that we've heard so far. At least the mobile money agents themselves, you've heard from them now. They are raising concerns about how you're engaging the association as a whole whilst they do this. Concerns about cash out has also come up. I'm sure you're aware that most of the times they can't do that by themselves, so they've raised concerns. We had another mobile money agent also, issues about robbery, and it looks like there will be more cash, more robberies. Is there a way we're going to curb that? And your question or your response to the e-levy thing, They say it looks like there will really be e-levy in there. But is ECD what we need now, knowing that we have Ghana Pay, we have other things in the system, is a concern?
Concerning the need for ECD, the need is not established at one point. There are different points of need of a digital currency. From the perspective of the financial service providers, within the payment circuit, settlement, cash movement is a problem, it's a challenge to financial service providers. And it takes a lot of funds from them. A lot of money is spent on managing cash. That level is taken care of. If ECD is introduced, it's going to be taken care of. Now, when it comes to financial inclusion, thank God, enabling regulatory environment, mobile money operators, including MTN, have done wonderful work by giving access to people to make payments in a smooth manner. Now, these are private operators that are using private resources to push the frontiers of exclusion. It gets to a point in time that you need to conquer the last mile. And those constraints, you cannot use private resources to deal with them. You need a public resource to come in. And that is where the ECD comes in. So the ECD is not all in all. That is why I said it's going to complement what is currently in place. A significant digitization taking place. The risk of digital divide is staring us in the face. You need someone to push those who risk being left behind into the ecosystem. And now access to digital means of payment is not a privilege, it is a right. So that is why we need the ECD. I think he spoke about the e-levy. ECD is a currency. The central bank issues currency with no tax attached to it. If there is going to be any levy at all, it will be levied on transactions. And any transaction that we do any part in the world, there is something that we pay. But the ECD, as it is now, there is no levy on it. Anyway, it's in the pilot stage, but there is no levy on it.
Okay. Madam, you want to add to it? There will be e-levy on ECD at your level. What exactly is it?
Not really. You know, Clarence mentioned that sometimes you might want to put costs somewhere because of integration costs, resources it took from you to implement something. So all that will go into it. But ECD as a product or a currency does not come with cost, and no e-levy as well, like you mentioned. But I want to pick some of the questions and comments we've received from financial literacy perspective. There's a lot of education we'd have to do with regards to the digital currency. And the agent who spoke is actually right. We need to actually educate agents and get customers to understand that ECD is a currency, is a cedi, is a value, is money that you can spend. When I say we need to get people to understand that, then it's going to help us to discourage cash in, cash out being the focus for the digital currency. At agent level, we need to do so much education to the extent that they would appreciate relationship management. I'm coming from banking, so you can understand relationship management point of view when it comes to the agents. The agents need to be able to educate customers to stop coming for cash. Until they do that and ask the customer what the customer needs the money for, we'll continue to be coming to the bank to get physical cash. Some customers come for money actually to go and pay their water bill. Why not educate the customer to just get the cash in ECD value and go and pay water bill? Some come to take money to go and buy an item. Why not educate the customer to take ECD as value to go and buy the item? If we do that, we'll be encouraging payment in the ecosystem, and the need and the request for cash will go down. So there's a lot of education that we'll do, and I'm sure between the central bank, banks, and then the fintechs and all stakeholders, we are going to continue to educate. That's why in my presentation I said thought leadership conversations are necessary, forums are necessary, so that we can continue to educate and get people to understand the digital currency.
Okay. All right. Mr. Abujay, okay, briefly. briefly, then we can go to Mr.
Yes,
Bujay and take
and
the final
to
word from
add
Mr. Eli.
to what Martha just said, I think it's about appreciation of what the ECD is and what it's supposed to do. It's not the same as mobile money. It's a currency like your fiscal notes and coins. Now, the key statement made by Eli concerning the need to understand the new ecosystem and adjust business models is critical, even from the agent's point. Now, this is where opportunities could be available for agents to do more than cash in, cash out that they are used to under the pure fiscal currency environment. I did say that the two are going to exist side by side, and it is going to be customer driven. If it gets to a point in time, users say that they don't want fiscal currency, we'll do that. If they want a certain ratio, we'll do that. But they need to rethink through their business model and see the business opportunities that the ECD is going to bring and adjust their business accordingly.
Okay. Well, Mr. Bujay, finally, before we come to Mr. Eli, we'll take your final comments on some of the things that you've heard briefly. Then Mr. Eli will give us the final words.
Okay. I think that for every technology, there are uncertainties. And this also brings the same thing. And challenges for me challenges are business opportunities. So we should not be worried, scared about new technology, but look at how we can build other businesses around it. It's going to take some time to build the ecosystem, just like it took time, investment to build the ecosystem of mobile money. I'm not expecting that by next year everybody is using ECD, that is if central bank goes ahead with the implementation. So we need to plan ahead, think about it, and come up with solutions that we can use to be able to better the living standard of our people.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Martha, please pass over the microphone to him. Then Mr. Eli will give us the final words, maybe with a promise also that we'll get another stakeholders forum.
Okay, all right. Thank you, MFA. I think a lot has been said. And like we indicated from the beginning, this is a platform to create opportunity for discussions like this. And we believe that when there's the need, we will reconvene to discuss and look at the ECD conversation on other fronts. Two things. The first one is the fact that we indeed believe that there are opportunities around this implementation. Those quick wins that Romeo highlighted are the things that we should be looking at because it adds value to the existing implementations that we have, which will improve the efficiencies we have, especially within settlements and supporting liquidity for our agents. So that's an opportunity we can begin to discuss and see how we operationalize that. Then the other part, which is the adoption, those will come over time as people build trust. Because even in the case of mobile money, it took a while to build trust for people to believe that it is adding value to what they do. So if the customer feels that something is adding value, they would adopt. And like I said, it requires some investment into building that ecosystem to support whatever we want to drive. And all the issues around executions would be informed by the customer's decision, what they see, but at the same time, what the future of digital payments is also pushing at us. We've talked today about opportunities to drive cross-border trade. A lot of the time, our traders are carrying physical cash across the borders. The risk exposure is high. Can this give us some leverage? I've said that we've talked a lot about the cross-border and the costs of doing business today where all the things we do must go through a USD before it comes, why can't central banks be talking among themselves so that you can do a direct trading between Naira and cedi? And that reduces the cost of operation and gives value to traders who are doing the back and forth. So we should be looking at solving those specific problems using technology that is available. We should continue to discuss and look at those opportunities into the future. So those will be my closing remarks. But of course, when there's an opportunity, we would have another go at this discussion. Thank you all very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a good time to give them a round of applause once again. We've heard from Mr. Eli Hine, CEO, Mobile Money Limited. We've also heard from Mr. Clarence Blay, Assistant Director, Fintech Promotion and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana. Also, Madam Martha Akwe, Head, Digital and Inclusive Banking. And to you, Mr. Romeo Buje, CEO, IT Consortium. Thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of today's Stakeholder Forum. And we didn't get the promise, but definitely the discussion will continue and we'll have stakeholder forums in this nature to keep on talking about ECD. But whilst we talk about ECD, let me tell you more about MoMo. We are in the MoMo month, and it's a good time to take out your phones. If you don't have the MoMo app, please, it's a good time to download the MoMo app directly. I know why I'm telling you this. There's a prize attached to it right now that you can win and get more on your MoMo. So your App Store, Play Store, just download. I know you have the MTN app already, but just download the MoMo app, MTN MoMo. It's very fast. You just download it because we have a customer promotion coming up starting on the 15th of August. And you get to win. Once you have the MoMo app, it makes it easier for you to win more. And you know, you've heard Haruna, the things that he's won. So please make sure you download. And we also, as part of our MoMo month, we're engaging in our financial literacy for JHS and SHS students. We are catching them young. So please make sure that you encourage the young ones to also be financially literate. It's across all 16 regions of Ghana. And we have the MoMo Pay exhibitions across the country as well. We have our agents and merchants here. It's part of it. So on this note, it's not my radio or TV program, but many thanks for your company today. But let the discussion continue so that we can make ECD work whilst we do not collapse the MoMo industry as well. Thank you once again for joining us today. Many thanks. Lunch will be served outside, so please, you can be part of it. Thank you.
Mama Mika, I signed the called Dubai. I'm changing my life. If you pay higher 2010, and I'm starting mobile money or depot, pay bridge and anymore. Na me share say kakra mobile money no na me so a check me try transactions be bring obi so be send mobile money me split it me transactions no say obi send amount to be the same amount na me send man me mobile money sa na MTN for e be hu me kakra mo be che me no be bring on ma me award 2019 no me say mobile na me nko akra prada obi de me ko Kumasi ona omo ko fa award ni man. So after that, now I'm saying to be ever playing the core Accra, Esan Kotoa Misoko, Dubai, Ebai. So the following year, and almost I'm car so count.
Life was not that easy in the beginning.
Everything for a Juman de Oma Boamipa through a Juman Moana media, Awari, I am Bibia abuse to Krama Miri, Nusu, Ayaka Krakra. At first, maybe 2 Quancrana, I had Diama, but say, Minafakana by 2 to 3 hours spend Masamba, as I'm by Juma. MTN, Madam Wasi, Yamishram.
Once upon a time, a sound was heard across the nation. A sound of freedom. A sound of hope. A sound of the future. The sound of MTN MoMo.
Using mobile money is fast and convenient.
There is no time bound for when to send and receive money.
Previously, I used to join long queue to send money to the family. Now I sit in my home to send money using mobile money app.
You can send money at any time and from anywhere, and the charges are very affordable to you.
The new legislation, the Electronic Money Issuers Guidelines, which also included interest on mobile money wallets for customers and agents, was the much-needed game changer that opened the vistas to stimulate customers and attract them to open new accounts so as to become financially included. Financial inclusion is an important element in formalizing Ghana's economy. Mobile money has been a key driver in this space over the past decade.
The MTN mobile money service has contributed over 220,000 mobile money agents to the job market, providing formal employment to 5,000 of them.
I started MTN almost 7 years. I started with credit card and as I say, I do mobile money. I started mobile money man. I buy and so I started with small showcase. By net, I'm making branches bebre. Many workers bear 10 and let me boy me booking for edit me bus school fees ni me.
The growth of the network of MoMo agents has become a major source of employment and revenue generation.
I've been in this mobile money business for 10 good years. Since the commission has been so good and so great, I've been able to get myself 5 shops.
I've had a change of life with MTN MoMo, because I didn't start like this. I started on a very small table. I moved to umbrella, a canopy, and now I have a container.
MTN MoMo is currently promoted and accepted at many service points and has contributed immensely to cutting down on losses. MTN MoMo has come to mean so many different things to so many people. To some, it represents a promise fulfilled. To others, it represents a simpler and smarter way to do business. And to others, it represents equality, an equal playing field for all.
Before MTN MoMo Yellow Save was introduced, I found it very difficult to save money as a student. But after MTN MoMo Yellow Save was introduced, it was an easier and convenient way for me to save money with my mobile phone, which I used to get textbooks and other learning materials as a student.
MTN MoMo.
While it can be said that a lot has been achieved by MTN Mobile Money, indeed, MTN had a dream to bring financial freedom and inclusion to not just a handful